Hey, everybody, it's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan. I am back in Tokyo from Osaka. I'll tell you about that trip at the end of this video. But first, let's look at some news. So this is the Twitter site of Pavel Matveev. He is the CEO of WireX, and he was in Japan and put a video up on his Twitter site that shows he is using the WireX card at the ATM, which converted his XRP into fiat. So for about 1 minute, you can see that the whole process is just as if you had a debit card issued from a bank and went to an ATM anywhere. It's so easy. This needs to be converted before spending or withdrawing, but auto version is coming, he said. It works in most of the major currencies. It's in 130 countries. It'll be available in the US at the end of this year or in early 2019. So it's really a great option for everybody who owns virtual currencies. He was here because he was one of the speakers at the FinSumX Summit. It's Japan's largest fintech summit. It just ended today. It's a 4-day event. It cost $1,000 to get in. If you were a student, you could get in for as little as $100. I think that's great that they gave a really significant discount for students. In addition to all those speakers, more than 80, they had 30 different startups too. I saw the list. Some of them look very interesting. I'm going to go back and study a little bit more and see what's happening in terms of startups. Most of them were from Japan. They also had a regulatory sandbox ideathon. So I'm looking forward to some of those stories that come out. Speakers. There was a representative from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the director of strategy with the Bank of Thailand. That's an important partner for both Ripple and SBI now in cross-border remittances. Of course, WireX was there, the founder of Omise Go, the GM of Japan for Coinbase, a lot of bankers and people in the fintech industry, as well as Mr. Kitao, the CEO of SBI Holdings. And he gave a presentation with a lot of new slides. This is actually, this is a quick 33-second animated version of some of the highlights he talked about at this summit. And R3 was a big focus for him. I'm going to stop that because the music gets a little loud. So R3, as you know, had a legal dispute with Ripple. And Mr. Kitao is quoted as saying that he pressed closely at the top of both those companies on solving that legal problem. And they did. They came to an agreement. It's been settled. That's a really wonderful thing. And now Mr. Kitao is going to dispatch people from his camp into both of those companies. So I think we're going to see a lot more activity from R3 and a lot more news coming from R3's participation. Okay. One of the new slides he had was this one here. Ethereum is going to be available on the SBI VC trade site in December of this year, 2018. And in addition, that closed environment is going to open up finally. So you will be able to accept and send virtual currencies from the outside, which is a great thing. And then in March of 2019, the leverage trading will begin. So that was some new information. And actually, CoinPost has the entire presentation broken down in great detail, slide by slide by slide by slide. I am going to go over this with some concentrated effort tomorrow and take the time to then share with you everything that is new, because there's a lot of new slides I can see and a lot of new information. So I will be sure to bring you this story again tomorrow in a little bit more detail. In addition to Mr. Kitao, Mr. Okita was also a speaker. He is, of course, the CEO at SBI Ripple Asia. He's an important guy, especially when it comes to MoneyTap. And MoneyTap is going to be a very important mobile app, not only in Japan, but in Asia. So they had a booth and they were showing people with demonstrations of how that MoneyTap application works. Okay, there is a story that just doesn't seem to want to die. It's been in the news for the last 4 days, and I thought this is a great way to show everybody that it's not something we need to worry about. It's not FUD. There's a huge difference between FUD and stories we need to know about. So I even tweeted, not the Wall Street Journal's story, but I tweeted someone else's story about the XRP daily sales volume that is being executed by Jed. And of course, Jed is now the co-founder of Stellar, and he is one of the original founders of Ripple, but we all know he went his own way and he's selling off his XRP. So let's just take a look at this. This is by someone who has a blog site in Japan, and I follow them on Twitter. It's Kaporu100. So you can see they've broken it down into dates. So let's just take example on the 25th of August, XRP closed at 33 cents. The daily volume was 167 million. So the sell-off by Jed was 552,000 shares. And that amount in US dollars was about 181,000. So you can see the total daily volume and the ceiling, which will give you the ratio. And the ratio was just 0.077%. So it is not something we really have to worry about. However, it is something we need to know. And I just want to remind everybody that this channel will cover stories that are sometimes a little salty. So I'm not always going to show things that are a pump, 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 pump. If you want that kind of feel-good channel, that's not this channel. So I think it's important that we all follow people on Twitter and people on YouTube that are not necessarily supporters of Ripple, because in order to be really up to date and understanding the space, you have to pay attention to everything. Okay, which leads me into my next story. I am going to be a beta tester for Stellar X. No, I don't own any Stellar. I am an XRP owner. But if you are following Sun Tzu, who is the Chinese military strategist from the 5th century BC, he wrote a book, 13 chapters to be exact. And one of the things he says is, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And in addition, one of the takeaways that also resonates with me, to know your enemy, you must become your enemy. So I don't know if you are following Sun Tzu, but it is something that I have been reading and rereading for years. And this is why you will sometimes see stories on here that aren't necessarily feel-good stories. And I just also need to explain why I want to become a Stellar X beta user. Okay? All right. So if you, again, I'll just repeat, if you only want feel-good stories, this is not the channel for you. All right, I had just had to get that off my chest because of the story I tweeted on Monday. Got some negative response and it was frustrating for me. Okay, enough of that. So let's go into some fluff. Let me show you where I was. I was in this building for basically 3 days. I was in Osaka for 4 days, but I was in this building, which is in the Osaka port, for 3 days. And I was responsible for 7 high school students. I was contracted to improve their English and get them ready for a homestay in Australia. So from 6:45 in the morning till 8:45 at night, including all meals, I was doing my very best to bring their English skill level up. And it's kind of an intensive course that I was hired to do. And I think they did a great job. At 16 years old, it really gets my finger on the pulse of what young Japanese are thinking these days. And I had 4 boys and 3 girls. And the interesting thing is, all 3 girls do not want to get married and have babies. And I thought, wow, that's changing. You know, I've been teaching for a lot of years here. And in the beginning, that was the main goal of all the young girls, was to get married. And now it's starting to change. They are thinking about doing it on their own and staying single and making a career. It's just a big change. So I'm very curious to see how Japan is going to change in the near future. So talking about babies, Japan has a Nakizumo Crying Baby Festival, and they happen actually all over Japan. The dates for 2019 have been announced. It is going to be April 27th. This is a 400-year-old tradition, and it's basically babies that have a bout for crying. And it's believed that it promotes babies' health and development. So the sumo wrestler will hold the babies over the dohyo. The dohyo is the mud ring. Let's take a look here. Here is an actual festival. I'm not sure where this one is. They take place all different locations. The one in Tokyo takes place at Sensoji Temple. It's a Buddhist temple in Asakusa, which is kind of the downtown area of Tokyo. And these guys who weigh in upwards of 150 kilos, they're in their mawashi, which is the belt and loincloth that they wear during their bouts. And they'll hold the babies up and try to get them to cry. And sometimes, of course, you can get some big tears. Looks like there's some big tears. So this is an annual event. Like I said, it's been going on for 400 years. It's really great, fun time, good photo op. The parents get an amulet for the memory of their child's competition. And if you put in those words, Nakizumo, you can take a look at some of the funniest pictures with events that take place all over the country. Look at this guy. He's not a happy camper at all. Oh, but anyway, so the people who do still want to have babies, this is a great picture. This is great. The people that the young people who still want to have babies can participate in these Nakizumo festivals. So, okay, everybody. That's all I have for you. Tomorrow, on a serious note, tomorrow I'm going to report in greater depth and detail on the slides that Mr. Kitao used in his presentation at that summit, because I know there's some new information there. All right. Take care, everyone. Sayonara for now. Bye-bye.